Hi, my name is Leighton Jin. I'm the Director of Development for the American Documentary and Animation Film Festival. We have a pretty exciting and very important film, one of many, of course, but this one is very important, especially with the timing. It's called The Devil's Busy, and we're with the two directors, Geeta and Christalyn, right?
Crystalline, yes.
Christalyn, I'm so sorry. I know I was trying to rehearse it and whatever. So The Devil's Busy is about, well, I'm going to have you guys describe the film for us.
Sure. So The Devil is Busy is about a really brave woman who is the head of security at an abortion clinic in Georgia. And we basically follow her through her day from opening of the clinic to evening. So it's really a slice of life film that embeds you with women who are on the front lines of the fight for abortion rights.
Now, obviously, a lot has happened in the last few years. Was there an escalation that got you interested in doing this feature? And the person you're focused on, her name is Tracy. Was it the escalation, or is it something you were planning to do, and then we had the Roe v. Wade being overturned? What was the origins of or the backdrop of the start of this film?
It definitely came out of the Roe versus Wade reversal, the Dobbs decision. And we were, sort of trying to figure out what the stories could be throughout the country, which stories we should follow. And, they asked me to visit this particular clinic. And then I went there and I was like, between the protesters and meeting Tracy, I was like, oh, this is something here. And we weren't sure when we first entered it, how we were going to tell the story or the perspective. We were talking to patients as well as staff. And it just the more we were there, the more it made sense to follow Tracy and get her perspective is so unique that we just thought that it would and genuine. She's a genuine person. And we just thought we should follow that storyline.
And maybe as someone who doesn't follow the storyline as much as you do, what was security like before the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and what it was it like when you started doing the film? Was there a dramatic change for Tracy and her job?
Well, since, particularly leading up to the election between January of 2024 and the election, they definitely saw an increase of protesters out on the
Hmm.
front, when the patients arrived. So the number of protesters grew, and I think her job, became more because the women had such a tight turnaround or 6 weeks, the 6 week ban was such a tight situation that I think it sort of escalated, how they get things done quickly and how they have to make sure they were prepared. But I have to say the Feminist Women's Health Center has always been really prepared and on the forefront and making sure they're up to date on whatever the new policies and whatever's thrown at them, they're always ready. So that was also really helpful on our part.
I just want to add, though, that of course the bans, right? Like
Hmm.
essentially, it is the center started seeing an influx of women from outside of the region, right? Like there's a
Hmm.
number of states, as you may know. I think it's 26 states and 3 territories right now have severely limited abortion, and there's
Hmm.
only 21 states where it's legal. So for suddenly they have women coming from like out of state, right? So
Hmm.
that changes things. Women driving sometimes for a whole day, having to stay there overnight, it's different circumstances than when, or, abortion was widely accessible. So they had to also, I think that's also a change that we saw. Like the women that you see in the film have come from all over. And I think Tracy understands that, and that's part of the care given is the idea that they're dealing with a population that has so much at stake and has been through so much just to reach them.
Hmm.
So takes her job very seriously of keeping them safe in that environment. And then there's the heartbreak of having to turn people away,
Hmm.
because Georgia has the 6 week abortion ban in place. So essentially, there was a moment where we thought it might shift, but it's back, and
Hmm.
so, and women often do not know, it
Hmm.
takes, it's very rare that a woman realizes that she is actually pregnant at 6 weeks, or before 6 weeks, because women's cycles can be irregular. So this is obviously a huge thing they have to face too, is really being exacting about, the time frame, like for women who come in and figuring out if they are 6 weeks or, over past 6 weeks or, the pregnancy is earlier. So all of those things come into play.
I'm sure, like you, I was shocked it got overturned. Can you talk to me about the moment you found out about Roe v. Wade being overturned, how that affected you or your thought process?
Yeah, I think I'll speak for myself, and Chris can obviously speak for her response. It was heartbreaking. I mean, it's like I never imagined that the women sort of in my family who are younger than me would have less rights than we had, for so long. Like but I think, this is something that folks on the right have been chipping away at for a long time. It's a strategy, right? So it fell over, it was a long way to get here, and there will be ways to claw our way back. But it's insane because I think, as one of the women says so rightly in the film, there's so many issues to deal with when it comes to women's health and reproductive care, and we're still stuck on the A word. It's like we're still stuck on this one basic thing, which is when there's a myriad of issues, right? And we cannot get past this. The basic right that women should have the right to choose and determine what happens to their own bodies. So,
Well, I was definitely angry, that this was even still a discussion, as Geeta said, like it's a human right issue to me as well. It's not just reproductive rights, it's a human right. And at the end of the day, it's healthcare. And everyone should have the right and the choice to make decisions about their bodies and their healthcare without any government or anyone making those decisions for them. So of course, it makes you very angry, but it also makes you become more of an advocate to really tell those stories, to make sure people understand sort of the restrictions around it, and hopefully we can push past this, that for the mere fact, like you just said, we're still talking about it is ridiculous to me. We're supposed to be a first world country, but we're doing some really backwards stuff. So.
Can you talk to me about the power of documentary? Because, we all see it. Journalism's declining in this country because of manpower, because of, they talk about the internet, but, it's diluting everything. And how important do you think it is for you as filmmakers, documentary filmmakers, to work hard to make sure you get this information out there and tell the story, completely?
I think and so I think documentary has always been incredibly important, in that there's obviously journalism. Documentary is ideally based in journalism, but I think the thing with documentary is that it can embed you in a story in a way that, for example, a news piece might not, right? Where with our film, you really get to walk in Tracy's shoes for an entire day. And that takes a little bit more time. Again, a 5-minute piece it's harder to do that. But I think with documentary films, even documentary shorts, right, which can range up to 40 minutes, you really, the audience gets the experience of really getting to know the people who are on screen, to feel that they could be them or they could be someone they might know or love or care about. Often documentaries, I think, too, that find a different angle into a hot button topic like abortion or anything can shift hearts and minds and make people see things differently. So I think the onus is on us as documentary filmmakers to continue to push those boundaries, and shed light on things, but also in ways that might make people understand them differently, that maybe can shed light on the dark corners, of people's beliefs and minds. And we are creatures that can constantly learn. So my hope with documentary film is that we are able to get people to exercise that muscle of empathy, of again, curiosity and connection and human connection. And I think when documentary does that well, it's one of the best ways to reach folks and make them, again, think about issues differently than they may have.
I completely agree. And, I feel like documentary films definitely is a way of a source to truth telling. You talk about journalism. One of the things that I feel in the documentary film space is that I try to uphold sort of the journalistic integrity, to telling these stories. And so I think that is something that the connection is there in that sense, but we just, as Geeta said, we go deeper into it.
Hmm. And then with this film that you're making, what kind of challenges do you guys face? Because obviously it's a hot button topic, and I'm sure you might have had some pushback. What were the challenges to bring this story to screen?
There's pushback. There's also safety issues. We had to really think hard about, again, we don't name people on screen.
Mhm.
Like again, bringing light to the clinic in this climate, could put them at risk. But this is always an issue, though. I think with documentary film, the ethics of documentary filmmaking, you really have to make sure that people understand what it means for them to be on screen. And that is this something that they're willing to do? And we have to wrestle with that as well. How much, what is our footprint? How much danger are we putting them in? And how much danger are we putting ourselves in? As, again, people working on topics that are, as you said, hot button, kind of at the moment controversial, where there's a lot of inflamed feelings on and beliefs and politics on both sides. So I think the main thing for us has been really taking care
Mhm.
with our, again, with the participants in the film, really they're our collaborators with the clinic, making sure that we run everything by them, that they feel that they were aligned, that they feel safe, that all our decisions, we did not make decisions without them,
Mhm.
um, and without their consent, really,
Mhm.
around what we were doing, because again, you never want to be responsible for any harm.
Right.
So that's the ethics of documentary are really big to both of us.
Mhm.
And sort of the decolonization of doc too. We really see our people who participate in the film and our camera as collaborators. So that was critical. And it's challenging, but really important in the making of this film.
Mhm. Now, this is a documentary short. Do you plan to continue with this story and make it something much more, and maybe more of a feature length down the road? I'm sure you're probably going to follow this topic. Well, I would assume you're going to follow the topic. I'm sure there's other things you want to cover, but I mean, there's a lot of opportunities and storylines that will continue to develop.
I think for now, it's definitely staying in the documentary short space, just because I feel that you really connect with Tracy's character and you get to understand what's happening in the climate that she's living in and what we're working in. And honestly, I don't foresee it changing drastically in the next 4 years for sure. Will we ever go back to allowing women to make have full autonomy and freedom over their own bodies? I hope so. But as of now, I don't foresee it in the near future.
I think, yeah, we'll be on the front lines, of course.
Yeah.
This film is sort of our way of trying to, again, present the issues so that people can relate. One of the things about Tracy that's so interesting is she is also deeply religious. She's deeply Christian. And it's interesting that she is a Christian who stands on believes in the right to abortion. So we found her so compelling also because of that. Because there is no one out there who can kind of, throw religion into the mix and accuse her of not being a good
Right.
Christian.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think for us, this story, there will likely be, other work in this area, but I think this film, it just feels like that day in her life was so illustrative of again, of the struggle that women who, and this is an all-female run clinic, which is also really important,
Mhm.
but that folks who are on the front line of this issue,
Mhm.
what they face, this feels like it encapsulated it. So I think we might branch out to other sort of other
Mhm.
angles, but I think that this, it feels like a complete piece to us.
Not to spoil your film, but what did you learn about Tracy and why she puts herself on the front line, and especially these days where it's more tumultuous? What was it about her? I mean, you mentioned that she was a Christian, and she sounds like a very complex person and very fascinating. What do you think you might have learned about her, and why she continues to put herself on the line like she does in this space? Or
Without
is that a
giving it
spoiler?
away, yeah, that might be too much of a spoiler, but I will say that Tracy's definitely a person who doesn't mind sharing her story, her personal story, and that a lot of those are really delicately balanced throughout the film.
Mhm.
That we see those stories sort of unveil. And I think that enriches the entire story, that we actually get to see the complexity of who she is, but also feel compassion towards her and empathy towards her and understand, like how important her work is on a day to day.
I think that Tracy, though, too, I'll say this, and I don't think this is not a spoiler, but Tracy is in her heart deeply feminist. Like she believes in women's autonomy. She believes in equal rights. She believes in, healthcare. As she said, this is healthcare.
Mhm.
Like this is the reproductive system is part of a woman's body,
Mhm.
and so she believes it's part of the overarching system of healthcare that women should have access to. It's as simple as that. She doesn't believe it should be politicized or allowed to be politicized. So I think those are things that a lot of folks could relate to, and she does not feel it conflicts with her religion. Which is, and she presents a really interesting angle into that you don't see. I think it's a very progressive, a very progressive way of thinking and a very interesting way of thinking. So we really wanted to showcase that because she's kind of I think she's a model for how people can reconcile religion and, this issue.
Mhm.
And it makes the viewer wonder who owns the rights to sacredness, who has those, be able to just say, I am, this is my religion, it's right. And I think that's something that organically just evolved out of it on its own, just because you have the protesters who are spewing sometimes the wrong scriptures, and with Tracy, who's definitely praying and, can probably quote the Bible better than any of them. So it's like, who owns the right to that while also, supporting a place where you can make your own choice?
Yeah, whose
And
interpretation of the
right,
Bible, right? Whose
right.
interpretation of a religion says what? As
Mhm.
Tracy says in the film, she says, "My God is a forgiving God. My
Mhm.
God is not, is
Mhm.
not one to punish you for, like so it's again, it's about interpretation. Um,
Now, part of your team includes Soledad O'Brien, correct? And can you talk to me how she got involved and what her participation was in the film?
Sure. So I have a long history. I've been really lucky to have a long history of working with Soledad O'Brien Productions. And so I did this film with them called Hungry to Learn a
Mhm.
number of years ago about hunger on college campuses, food insecurity. And then I did the series Black and Missing for HBO with them. And Christalyn has her own history as well, which she can share. But I think there's been a long partnership, and this topic came through them. They had some funding, and they really wanted to do, once Roe fell, they really wanted to do a story on this. And so we were looking into it for a long time. We also have a producer, Amber Fares, who was a big part of this. She was early on the ground helping us wrap our heads around the story, and she was critical. And then we landed on Tracy. Uh, do you want to talk about your history with
Oh,
Soledad?
yes. So I've been working with Soledad since 2021 on the Rosa Parks documentary that premiered at Tribeca and for Peacock. And then I'm now working on I'm heading into my fourth project with her now for a PBS series. So
And Soledad is also, and Rose, who are, they are really, they run the company. It's their company, or it's Soledad's company, and Rose is, the head of the company. They are also executive producers on my film, The Perfect Neighbor. It just premiered at Sundance.
Oh,
So, yeah.
well, congratulations. What's the perfect neighbor
Thank
about?
Thank you, thank you. The Perfect Neighbor is basically the story of a community that was rocked by a stand your ground shooting.
Oh,
And it's just we follow and it's in Ocala, Florida, and we follow the trajectory through police body cam footage. There was two
oh,
years of police body cam footage that led up to the murder, and it was a young woman, mother for Ajika Owens, who was a family friend. So that's how the story came to me, to my company, Message Pictures. And so that's so yeah, we're now on the road with that. But Soledad is an EP on that, came in right at the beginning to support. So
You got a project to promote too?
No, just a series that I'm working on with them for South Florida PBS.
Now,
Yeah.
now I didn't talk to you about it before, but how did you guys come together to work on this? Because it sounds like you both have your separate. How did you guys come together to work on this, and how often do you guys work together?
Christalyn is my best friend from college.
Okay.
That's how long we've known each other.
Yeah.
So yeah. So basically, yeah, I kind of dragged her into the film world. I was like, you should be a pretty, because she was an amazing dancer and choreographer and performer before. She was always in performing arts. And she liked to boss me around a lot. And I was like, but she's just like the most organized person I know. And I was like, you should really be a producer. You'd be really good at it. So, and then she segued into producing. And now, and she's been producing for a while. And then The Devil is Busy. It was our first. I've been directing I was an editor, then became a director. I've been directing for about 15 years, and she's been producing now for a long time. And then we co-directed. Basically, I was her first. So Devil is Busy is her directorial debut, and now she's directing a series. So
Yeah.
So, what did you learn? What did you bring from the producing world to your first film directing, and then what are you bringing from this project to your series, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, no worries. As Geeta said, I'm very organized, and I've always sort of been able to sort of see the bigger picture. And I think it comes to my performance background as well, sort of like understanding, there has to be a beginning, middle, and end, and, sort of understanding what that can look like. And I connect with talent really easy. And so I knew that, going into something as sensitive as working in an abortion clinic, that I had to be make sure that people could trust process. And that's something that I was able, I feel like, from my producing and from my performance background, to sort of come in and just sort of see the bigger picture of what we could possibly do, and make sure that we're getting all the, to make sure we have the cutaways and all that kind of stuff. But it's also really thinking and also being in constant contact with Geeta and Rose throughout the process, that we were making sure that we were finding a story that could really live on its own.
I think she also, to Christalyn, like I said, that ability, producing is an art, like being able to understand what the vision is and to deliver, to
Mm-hmm.
build everything out, to be able to deliver it.
Mm-hmm.
So such an organic segue,
Well, I
but it's
mean, if you have a good producer, you're gonna have a good well, I don't want to say product, but you can have a good film. I mean, I think producing
that's right.
is a
Yeah.
big part of
That's
it.
right. So it's been really exciting to watch her, blossom. And even though I get a lot of flack for abandoning her on like even on this last series. I'm an EP on her series currently, and she's like,
Oh.
it's it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So what was it like to work together for the first time in this capacity? I'm sure you've worked
No,
in a similar,
we've worked together a lot. So
right,
basically,
but in this capacity as co-directors, what was different about that than before
I,
when she was producing and you directing?
Not really much.
not much.
Yeah, because we
She
both.
still yelled at me just as much as she yelled at me before. Yeah. But we did the series Born in Synanon together for Paramount Plus. She was my supervising producer / showrunner. I was the director. So we were like, we were like this, like the entire time, every shoot together, et cetera, et cetera. We always have, and it's both creative as well as logistical.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel, there's that familiarity. And then plus we just know each other so well. Like she's the godmother to my children, like there's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's very comfortable. It's almost, I'm like, why isn't every shoot like this?
Yeah.
Seriously. So,
Yeah.
Well, I think that's gonna do it for right now. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about this what sounds like a very powerful film about a very dynamic person. I'm looking forward to seeing it out here, and I'm sure everyone will look forward to seeing it as well. And will you guys both be in Palm Springs for the film?
Would love to
We
be.
love to. I'm not 100% sure because of previous commitments, but the goal is either going to be one of us or Soledad will be there, hopefully.
Somebody will be there
Somebody
for
will be
the
there.
film for sure.
Well, that would be great. We'll really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to this film. It's a very important film for a very important time in this country's history. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to remind everyone, tickets are on sale. Just go to our website. And the American Documentary Animation Film Festival is March 27th through 31st at the Palm Springs Cultural Center. And you can find some fantastic films, just like The Devil's Busy. Thank you both so much for joining me today. And I hope you guys can both make it so we can catch up over coffee or something here in Palm Springs.
Also, who doesn't want to come to Palm
I know.
Springs?
I want to go.
Palm Springs is so nice. Yeah, we would love to come to Palm Springs, so we'll try.
Okay, that sounds great. Again,
Thank
thank you very much, and
Thank you.
and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.